What I will say is, I don't know if anybody's heard of the CIT program. It's national, but unfortunately, it is an elective at the police academies, the crisis intervention team training, and that is where first responders, particularly cops, are trained in mental illness and appropriate response, communication, triggers, not to take every darn thing seriously and, just feel like your hallowed God-given authority is being infringed upon. It's not a magic wand, but it's the best that we have in educating our law enforcement about mental illness. I just like to say, don't take everything personally, 101. And I say that because, they think like cops. They're taught, it's us against them, and we have to, go out and protect and serve. Rid the public, rid society, cleanse all of the neighborhoods of these problems. And what they learn, and it is a 40-hour, literally a 40-clock hour curriculum. Unfortunately, it's only offered quarterly, and a lot of the departments say, well, that costs a lot of money. So do lawsuits. So if an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, why not? They sit in this class for, 8 hours a day for 5 days, and they hear from mental health therapists, mental health specialists. They hear from parents. They have the consumer panel. Oh, I love those days. I've been invited 3 times. So basically, that is a person with mental illness. That's Christmas. We get to sit in a room full of cops and everybody else who's probably hauled us off somewhere, or who have discriminated against us and treated us like animals, and tell them how we really feel after they've spent a few days understanding what's really going on and what the situation is not. My other favorite part of that training is that they get to go on what I call the field trip. It's the field trip. They go to the psych lockups. They go to the detox facilities in some cases. Not just in front of the building and stand. No, they get to walk the halls and see some of these dumps where they haul us off to, and what being, sifted through the system, doped up on meds, is like. And then they sort of hopefully get an idea. Oh, okay, this is why they're pissed. It's not a personal attack against us. This is why they're defensive. This is why they feel alienated, misunderstood. And I tell them every 3 months, look, you say you were coming to help me, but you're wearing a gun and a badge. Last person that said they came to help me, I ended up in 72-hour hold until space became available at the psych hospitals or one of the area mental health facilities. I mean, behavioral health, our behavioral health system is shot. Okay? That's just it. Funds are cut repeatedly. No one really puts stock into this idea that, hey, mental illness diagnosis or not, these are human beings and deserve to be treated as such. Not everybody is criminal. Illness and instability are different things. They just are. That 1 in 4 Americans and that 25% of the country, blah, 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 blah. Those are the ones that we know about. And it's that really tiny number. I know you see it all day on TV. It's done for a reason. But it's a really, really small, small percentage of that who are actually criminal and dangerous and violent. That's not everyone. There are specialized training in every other department, every other division of law enforcement. I don't get it. But when it comes to mental illness, there's only one way of dealing with things. Get them off the street. Lock up all the nuts, LaPierre. But, I guess in that case, you'd have to visibly inspect who is actually crazy and who is not. Told y'all that 25% are the ones we know of. Let's see. Bomb squad. They're not going anywhere near the zip code unless they know full well what's going on. They communicate with whomever made the call. They have all of this lingo and trigger and specialized training on how to approach those situations, okay? Sex crimes. Need I say more? Hopefully they are empathetic. We're moving in that direction, hopefully, with human traffic cases. Right now, at least in North Carolina, at the police academies, the human trafficking course, it's just that, it's a course, and it's an elective. It's not a perfect system. But my point is, they are trained in these things, these subspecialties here. Hostage negotiators, they are taught to pretty much master this art of communication and listening while being on ready at all times. But they try to get to the bottom of things to prevent people from hurting themselves or others. Split-second decisions is when somebody is hauling a screwdriver at your throat. That is not what happened. You have a bully in uniform who was just barbaric and barreling through a home saying what he does not have time for, just that waste that's an extra pile on his desk or his superior's desk, and decided just to end it right there. We cannot continue to do this. Now, I wish I had some numbers. There are a lot of departments throughout North Carolina that have these CIT trainings, okay? But unfortunately, it's just that once every 3 months. I'm not sure how they go about signing up for it, or if people who are potential lawsuits are made to take the courses. I think it's a very good course. It's not a magic wand, but again, it's the best we have at training first responders on, how to better approach the mentally ill. And I have to correct myself and say deal with. Deal with implies, okay, I'll put up with it, whatever. There are, toolkits and how-tos and all of this, as well as what they call mental health first aid now. I'm not a particularly big fan of mental health first aid. That's a whole nother discussion. It to me is not appropriate for crisis situations. That's just the way I feel about it. But because we have those things in place, because there's programs like CIT training and peer support specialists, and however scant, there are models and examples to say, hey, this stuff works. It's this really cool idea that if I talk to people and not at them, while still being aware of my surroundings, while understanding that I'm there to protect and serve, while not barreling through a door and committing the next thing that you have to sweep under a rug, hey, I could save the city a whole lot of money. What can be said to this mom and dad? Really? What can you possibly say when you said 3 days later, we murdered your child in front of you, but it was justifiable? Now, I know to get to your front door, you have to climb over that big old bloodstain there, but I can assure you, we acted justifiably. Really? Okay, so my question is, how high does the body count? Really? How high does the body count have to reach before we begin to take mental illness seriously, realize that an ounce of prevention is really worth a pound of cure, that there are better ways to go about responding to these calls? From dispatcher, God help whoever made the call or who communicated that there was a need for police presence. That there are better ways of communicating with families in the midst of all of this. And my favorite, diffusing and de-escalating and de-escalating and diffusing these situations. You'll hear them all the time. How high does the body count have to reach? Funny you should ask, because you know what? I have a proposal. Dear God, let me live to see the day when my 2 cents is asked for. It's always a consumer group and legislators and lobbyists and the people who represent the consumers. But in a lot of these public forums, you don't see too many mentally ill people there. Hey, a lot of us function. I told y'all I live alone. I have some bends to take, but I live alone. I take care of myself. I blow my own nose and wipe my own tail. And that's what people don't realize. Mental illness is not synonymous with crime, and infantile or a vegetative state or dependent. It isn't, okay? But I have a bright idea. Just humor me here. I have a bright idea. Keith Vidal should still be alive. This should not have happened. I'm not discounting the fact that he had a screwdriver. I'm telling you, you're acting irrationally. You grab the first thing that's there. Who knows why he grabbed anything? Who knew why he was so rattled and so upset and resistant and combative for all of these things? One, we all know he was not on medication. He did not want to take meds. But you still, I know it's hard, you still cannot hear dead teen, dead schizophrenic, cop, and screwdriver in the same sentence and figure, oh, it's cut and dry. You cannot treat these mentally ill crisis calls the same that you would say a standoff or someone who really has excuse me, who really has, I've been eating tacos, malicious intent to harm someone. You have to treat it differently. And until we put stock in the fact that, hey, our first responders need to be trained in these circumstances and situations and with more medical training, psych training and things, we'll continue to see this. And it isn't fair. And before anyone says, well, they're cops, they're not doctors. It could be a fight on a playground. Somebody's going to scratch their head and say, hey, what happened? What's going on? You can get to the bottom of something without having to be there for an hour. And you can, sure as heck, at least try to diffuse things for now before moving on to the next step without putting an interest or an exit wound in someone.